Ready to reignite your passions and your purpose to experience success in this new year? I'm Jackie Elmer. Learn more about my success coaching at streetsmartwealth.com. Happy New Year. This is part 3 in our 4-part series on how to make this year really and truly the one that is going to beat all years you've ever experienced. So let's dive into it, shall we? Now, in part 1, we talked about how to review, reflect, and basically close out the year that we've just experienced. And it doesn't matter when you're listening to this, you can do that at absolutely any time. And by the way, did you know that this is also on YouTube? You can just go to YouTube, type in Jackie Elmer, and you will find the video of this as well. So part 1, review, reflect, close out the year, do some personal accountability, do some tough love work on yourself, what was good, what was bad, and then ultimately some planning for the next year. And then part 2, we talked about realigning your vision. Are you still pursuing your worthy goal, your true vision? And by the way, you're the only person that can truly identify whether or not your goal still remains worthy in your mind. That's all that matters. So today in part 3, we're going to talk about reigniting our passions, our purpose, and those desires to move us in the direction of these goals that we're pursuing and the success that we desire. And I'm going to start by talking about the way you start your day, your morning routine. Now, you can Google that. You can look all over. I've done a number of podcasts on it. The morning routine and how you start your day is critical to your success. But here's the thing. Does the way you run your morning have to be set in stone? Do you have to do it like everybody else shares in how to do it? Now, I've followed a lot of people over the years and still adhere to a lot of their best practices. But what I've learned for me is I have to figure out for myself, taking pieces from everybody's own way of doing things and incorporate it into my own, test, tweak, try, shift up some things, and make it to where I truly experience what I want. Now, one of the first people who I've listened to and have adhered to a lot of his principles is Hal Elrod, who wrote The Miracle Morning, and his acronym is SAVERS. This is how he starts his morning: silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, which is journaling. And he used scribing because it fits in nicely. Then I've also followed Craig Ballantyne, which kind of has the farmer's philosophy. I can't remember what he actually titles it, but he talks about growing up with a father who was a farmer. And, first thing early morning, they got up, they had breakfast, they put their boots and their work clothes on, and they went out into the field and they got everything important done for the day first thing, right? The early bird catches the worm. There's Robin Sharma, the 5 a.m. Club. There's Cal Newport, who's taught me a lot about time blocking. There's a lot of different ways to run your morning. Now, I know for me, I align more closely with the Craig Ballantyne, get up first thing and get the important things done. It's important to note 2 areas for yourself that will help determine your overall success. One is your zone of genius. That's not only what you're pursuing, but also zone of genius in terms of timing of the day when you are a peak performer. And then energy peaks. And for mine, as I mentioned, I am a morning person. I typically am out of bed between 4 and 5 every morning. It almost doesn't matter what time I went to bed. I just have a natural alarm clock, whatever time zone I'm in, that wakes me up between 4 and 5. Now, interestingly, this morning as I'm recording this, I woke up around 3, laid awake for about an hour, and managed to go back to sleep till 5:30. But it was kind of funny. While it felt really good, part of me felt like, oh my gosh, I've already missed like at least an hour of the day. So I've learned not to fight with my natural circadian rhythm, if you will, the natural way that my body likes to do things. There are morning people and there are nighttime people. My whole family, myself, my husband, my son, we're all morning people. My daughter is the night owl. Sorry for her. She kind of got the short end of the stick in terms of being around 3 people who don't operate that way. But I've learned how to schedule my calendar and my day to take advantage of my zone of genius. I get up, and the first thing that I want to do, and I'll talk about my first 30 minutes, but the first thing that I really want to do is get into productive mode because it creates a lot of mental clutter for me if I'm not doing those things in my zone of genius that I know I quote should be doing, or really and truly beyond the word should, most desire to be doing. So I've learned to schedule my time to create content and do my work first thing in the morning. Now, that first 30 minutes, I get up, I make my bed immediately. I'm of that old military mindset. I get up, I immediately turn around and I make my bed. And then I drink my water, 16 to 32 ounces. I stretch. I do 5 minutes of some type of stretching movement just to wake my body up, to warm my body up. I make my tea. I do my daily thought download where I just get everything out on paper. I review my tasks, my planning that I've already done for the day. And then I look at that and I get ready. So if my listing of tasks is going to be to shoot videos like it is today, then I get in the shower and I get ready. I get that done. And if my task is going to be writing or anything that's off camera, then I don't worry about that right away. I just get right to it and start writing. Now, notice I didn't mention social media at all. I didn't mention scrolling Instagram or checking Facebook or even my email or any of that. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I don't ever do that, but it is not listed anywhere on my task sheet and it's not part of my zone of genius for the day. So I like to really start with what are my overall goals for myself? We've talked about goal setting. One of my goals is to be a peak performer and live to be past 100 years old. So I know that exercise is extremely important for me. And I know as a type a 3 on the Enneagram, a performer, an achiever, it's very important for me to get movement into my day because that releases anxiety and stress. So my goal is to work out, exercise, move, whatever you want to call it, at least 1 hour by the end of the day. Now, most often, unless I'm going for a walk in the desert or hiking or something like that, I don't block that into a 1 hour time zone or time frame. I create 4 15-minute workouts throughout the day. We've said before, sitting is the new smoking. So I set my timer for every 50 minutes to go off and I get up and move, even if it's only just moving, stretching, and it's not part of one of my 4 15-minute workouts. Another goal for mine every single day is to eat well. Now, that's super easy for me because I am a pre-planner of food, prepping, cooking, and I know just about every day when I get up, before I even get up, I know what my meal plan is for the day. That really saves me so much time and energy, so much brain power, and it reduces the likelihood that I'm going to fill my mouth, consequently my body and my brain with a bunch of garbage. Because when I know ahead of time, I've planned, I've shopped, I've prepped, it's there, I can just eat what I need to, when I need to, and truly fuel my body in the best way possible. And I like to engage in intuitive eating, which what that basically means, if you followed me at all through my health coaching, Lower Toxic Life is my YouTube channel on health coaching. If you followed any of that, I'm an intermittent faster. I lean more toward the paleo carnivore type of diet. And now I'm really engaged in intuitive eating. I'm no longer eating on a schedule so much. Now I go about 14 hours regardless, almost every single day where I fast for 14 hours. So it works great for me. It's the way I have my schedule set up. Last meal of the day, I can eat early. In fact, I prefer to eat earlier in the day and be done with that. Give plenty of time for my natural circadian rhythm to kick in and allow me to sleep better. Because some studies have shown for some people, not everybody, but going to sleep with food still in your system will upset your natural sleep cycle. You have to test and try that for yourself. I'm not going to tell you that's the way that it works, but it's possible. So I really want to encourage you to try that for yourself. And then I almost do no snacking anymore because I don't need to. I'm an intuitive eater. I eat only when I'm hungry. I eat to satiation or till I'm full, not overstuffed. And then I don't eat again until I'm truly hungry. That was a habit that I had to break, especially after 30 years of working from home where I would get bored and I would go open up the fridge or open up the cabinets and see what I wanted to eat. Now, my word for the year for 2025 is completion. And that's important to me because what I want to do is pay attention to what's on the calendar in front of me for the day, what are the tasks, and then every day I want to complete that completion and have that done. I know that if I complete my daily tasks, that allows me to complete my weekly tasks, which allow me to achieve my monthly tasks and goals, and ultimately complete the end of the year as close to success as I possibly can, knowing that I did all the steps that I needed to do to create that success. And then the other piece every single day that I want to have done is creating content. I'm a content creator. Yes, I'm a coach. Yes, I'm a strategist. Yes, I'm all those other things. But my marketing, my sales, everything that I do revolves around content. So I want to make sure that every day I am completing the tasks of the content that I'm going to do. Now, so again, my zone of genius, my peak performance times are in the morning. That means I schedule all my coaching clients in the afternoon or evenings unless they specifically request morning time of me. I don't need a lot of energy personally to go into the client session because the people who I work with provide that energy for me. But my brain and my creative genius and all of that takes place in the morning to create my own content. And that creative process that I need working with my clients takes place when I am actually working with my clients because they are my primary focus. So I don't have to bring creativity into those sessions. We generate those together. Now, one of the most important things about creating this way of doing content and creating this way of working within your own zone of genius and eliminating distractions is that studies have shown that it takes about 23 minutes to regain your focus on whatever you're working on when you've been distracted. And I know working from home now with a husband who's retired, he can walk in and I can be in the middle of something and he asks me a question about something completely off topic. I have to stop, go into my mental Rolodex, answer the question, and then I have to work to get back into my zone of genius. And he's most often gone in the mornings, which helps me since that is my zone of genius time. And then I can do those things undistracted. So think about that for you. Begin to track and pay attention. What happens to you when you get distracted? And how long does it take you to get back on course? All right. So some things, homework, if you will, or some steps that I'm going to give you to consider as we begin to wrap this up. The most important thing, regardless of the time of day, for you to do is to take time each day to create clarity on what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're doing it. And that really, for me, involves planning. That involves planning. So what I want to show you is the type of calendar blocking that I am currently using and how it's working for me. Now, I've said before and I've shown that I still use an old-fashioned day timer, and I put the most important content in this day timer. But one thing that I learned, I think it was from Cal Newport. I'm not entirely sure. So Cal, I hope I'm giving you credit where credit is due. Every day, I start with a blank piece of paper, very much like this. This is simply a composition book. And if you are listening to this, you can go to YouTube and actually see this in action, but you'll get a sense of what I mean. So it's just literally a blank notebook with lined pages. And what I do is I write things down in hour-long slots. So as I mentioned, I get up early. So in it, I have 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, pretty boring. And then right down here at the bottom of the page, I leave about 5 or 6 lines for tasks. So what I do is I plan this ideally the night before. So before I go to bed, I do a whole different evening routine. And one of the things that I like to do is plan out my day so that I don't have the mental clutter even going to sleep or trying to sleep of thinking, Now, what all is it that I have to do for the day tomorrow? When you stop and think about it, it's that type of mental clutter that can really get in the way and affect our sleep and our productivity. And we feel like we should get up and write things down. But if you've done it the night before, you can relax. You still have the flexibility anytime you want to make changes. But when you have it written down, it is powerful. So I will start the evening before, I will write down all the tasks that I intend to do the following day. And then I block them in based on, again, what the task is, my zone of genius. I block them in. So here's an example for today. And again, if you're not on YouTube, I will link the YouTube episode in the show notes if you absolutely want to see this. But here is today's. Here is the times, and these are all the tasks that I want to get done. And then right out here, you're going to see the 5 times 5. That is my workout plan. Every hour, I do some movement. So I have a 5 by 5 by 5 plan. 5 minutes, 5 moves, 5 times a day. That takes up 25 minutes of the day. And I mentioned I like to get an hour workout in, and then I incorporate some other things along the way. So I put these off to the side so that I'm sure that I'm doing them. But then right here I have record part 3, record part 4. I have all of these written in. I have to do some things to get my parents moved into assisted living at the end of the month. I put all of this in here. All of this. I actually have here from 7 to 8, shower, get ready, eat, all of that stuff. I have it tracked. And one of the things that this does extremely well for me is it allows me at any time to stop wasting time. It's imperfect right now because I've basically just started this strategy. It's called time blocking. There's probably other official words for it, but this is what I'm doing right now. It's imperfect. I just started it, but right now it is working extremely well to keep me on task and undistracted. As I mentioned, I don't have social media. You won't see social media anywhere in here with the exception of tonight. I have a podcast episode on YouTube that I listen to, and I actually have that written in. I don't have checking email. I don't have checking Instagram. I don't have checking Facebook. I don't have any of that in here. So anytime that I'm feeling like, oh, what am I supposed to be doing? I look at the time. Oh, it's 8 o'clock. What does 8 o'clock say? Record my podcast. All right. I'm going to stop doing everything else that I'm doing, and I'm going to follow this path and get things done. And then at the end of the day, this is an example of yesterday's. I did not get all of these things. If you look to see here, you can see where along the side, I checked off the things that I did get done. Some of them I didn't get done. Again, this concept is imperfect for me, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it, and I'm working to perfect it into a situation that's going to be perfect for me. Now, having not gotten these done, which by the way, recording this podcast was on my list for yesterday, I did not get it done. So now here I am today doing it. I simply look at the tasks that I didn't accomplish the day before or that day, and that evening, as I'm planning for tomorrow, I simply move it over. And I got to tell you, this has been amazing. Flexibility is still allowed. Obviously, I did not get all my tasks done yesterday. I had a lunch to go to. I had to prep for that. I didn't do a great job of understanding the time that it was going to take to do certain things. Here's the thing about it. We so often have this tendency to expect ourselves to be immediately successful, whatever it is, whatever new habit or new thing is that we're trying to adapt. Am I right? Or am I right? Or at least I do that. Leave in the comments below if that is or isn't something that you do. But here's the thing. It's like I said, here's what I'm learning in the process of doing this. I didn't beat myself up last night because I looked and said, I didn't get this podcast edited. I had 2 podcasts I was going to edit. I had 2 I was going to record. I had an email series I was going to write. I didn't get any of that done. But I did accomplish my mastermind meeting in person with my mastermind group, and that was important. When I got home last night, I didn't beat myself up. I didn't beat myself up during the day because I knew that I was going to simply move those things over to the next day. And I knew that even though they clearly were not the number one priority for me yesterday, They are a high priority, but they weren't the top priority. Otherwise, I would have done it. So, what I'm learning in the process, and what I think you'll learn in the process too, is first of all, how much time each of us waste on a daily basis. We're dilly dallying around, we're scrolling, we're listening to that next YouTube video, we're doing all the things that truly waste time. I've learned how much time I waste just moving stuff around my house, reorganizing, making new piles, just doing crazy stuff. The other thing I'm learning is how much actual time I need for certain tasks. And it's helping me create systems and checklists, which we'll talk about on the next episode, part 4. It's helping me create those task oriented systems and checklists because I know this is roughly how much time it takes me to do A, B, C, D task. And that is amazing. And it's teaching me also what those times are that I work best on certain projects. Now, I've mentioned I'm a morning person. I know my zone of genius. So for me in the morning, that's when I want to do my writing and my filming. It's definitely when I want to do my writing and my filming. And the reason is because I need all of my creative energy to do that. In the afternoons or evenings, I can do my editing and creating other things from that process that I did in the morning. So I can write a lot of content and then I can easily put that into an email series, put that into a blog post, put it into the structure of how I want to do a podcast or film a video for my programs or, for my podcasts or any of that type stuff. So when you learn your zone of genius times, you will learn how to schedule the best times and then what tasks you want to save for those other times when you don't need as much creative energy and full focus. Now, another thing that you may have heard of is monk mode. And I had heard that for a long time, but one of the things that I actually practiced last year was sitting in silence for big chunks of time. And what I mean by that is not necessarily totally isolated. It doesn't mean going and, renting a place for 2 months or whatever. Although I am a big fan of getting some isolated time by yourself, whether it be one night in a hotel or somewhere, or 2 nights or a weekend or even a week, if you can swing that to where you really take that time in isolation, in silence, without constantly, being on your phone, scrolling and doing all that kind of stuff, without anyone else there, where you can really focus on who you are, who you want to be, your future self, right? And what it's going to take to get there. And then from that, so many great things will happen. So there's a theory out there of going into monk mode for 66 days. I've heard it's 60 something amount of time that actually takes to create a new habit. I know we hear 21 days. That's to start to get into the rhythm of it. But to really solidify it, it's over 60 days. They say. Not for all of us. Doesn't have to be true for you. I don't like labels and I don't like anybody saying, well, it worked this way for me, so it's got to work that way for you or any of that kind of stuff. Not necessarily. So whether it's 66 days, whether it's one weekend, whether it's 2 days, 6 months, whatever it is, take that time, take some time in silence away from social media to begin to build who your highest, most developed version is of yourself, and write it down on paper. Write it down on paper. Who are you now, and who do you want to become? Who is that future self, that $1 million self-image? I did a podcast on that last year. Who's that $1 million self-image that you want to step into? And I'll link that in the show notes. And then write it down on paper. Do a social media detox. Go into extreme restriction on your time on social media. Here's what you're going to find. You don't really miss that much. You don't really miss that much. Do whatever it is that you can to remove those toxic distractions from your life. And by toxic, I don't necessarily mean poisonous, but we all know that. We tend to look at everybody else's A-roll on Instagram and compare it to our B-roll, and why aren't we good enough, and why aren't we that? And we have relationships that are toxic. We have chemicals in our food, like so many different things. Think about little, small, simple steps that you can take to eliminate toxic distractions. I heard it said like this. Somebody said this. I can't even remember who it was. It doesn't matter how much great organic, high quality ingredients you put into a recipe. If you toss in a piece of dog poop, it's going to make it inedible, unpalatable, and something that you would not want to consume. It's the same way with those toxic distractions. And then finally, write a letter from where you are right now to your future self. Write a letter that you're going to read on December 31st, 2025, or a year from whenever you're listening to this show, of what you've accomplished, what you're proud of, and what you want to reassure yourself of. So often when we set goals, we only think about the success steps and the positive part of that goal and what we have to do to get there. What we very often don't consider is how we're going to deal with those obstacles and challenges. So that's a big part of that letter is, what do you want to reassure yourself of? Don't feel motivated today? Okay, that's fine. You don't have to feel motivated. And by the way, that's the beauty of this calendaring and time blocking process. I don't have to feel motivated to accomplish what's on my list. I just have to get up and read it and just push play, just push record, just start writing with no perfection. You can hit delete on absolutely anything that you want. So the thing I love about this style of doing things is that it does not require you to feel motivated in the moment. We tend to think that the only way we're going to get those action tasks completed is if we feel motivated. There's a lot that you can do without feeling motivated, okay? When you have done the parts that we did before, realign yourself with your vision, know what you're working toward, know your why and all those reasons. It makes it so much easier to say, I don't feel motivated today, but I'm going to do this regardless. I'm just going to get it done, because when I do it, even if it's not perfect, I'm going to feel so much better about myself for having done it. That's what I have for you today. In the show notes, I will list part 1, part 2. I will also list that $1 Million Self-Image show. And then next up, our next part, step 4, is how to re-engage with what it is you want to accomplish using systems and strategies. I'm Jackie Elmer. Thanks for listening. And remember this, we don't get our goals, we get our habits. So what are your current habits producing for you? Would it change your business at all if you knew exactly what to say online and offline about your business without annoying family, friends, and strangers? Join me for the KillerContentFormula.com 3-day challenge. I'll provide proven tools to overcome fears and limiting beliefs that keep you feeling stuck with what to share on social. We'll create your powerful impact introduction. We'll write your business story in a formula to share on social that attracts your ideal clients and doesn't turn anyone off. And you can use this formula over and over and over. No more stare, compare, and despair about what to say to grow your business. Grab the first 3 video trainings at KillerContentFormula.com. And let's create that rock star lifestyle business you desire.